Let's do it.
Hey Renny, my name is Dempsey Pillot. I am a writer and a critic for a site called Cinefied. Major fan of your work.
Oh,
I
good.
mean, going back decades. I mean, Deep Blue Sea is like one of my all-time top favorites. Uh,
Thank you.
so it's a true pleasure to be speaking with a legend like yourself. Um,
Thank
uh,
you.
I I want to start off by saying I had the pleasure of actually seeing you in person at New York Comic Con. I want to say like 3 years ago now, when you and one of the producers, whose name I sadly forget, were introducing the movie, talking about where the whole idea came from, and guys were just hyping it up there. Um, like I said, it was about 3 years ago now. It
Yeah.
feels like so much has changed. I remember the original idea was to have all the movies released like in 1 year. Obviously, that didn't happen. Now, finally, with the third film coming out and all the films completed, I want to know, is this the same story that you originally signed on to tell?
Good question. Um, Obviously, it was disappointing that because our idea was this is kind of a new serialized way of telling a larger arc in a movie theater, and the whole fascination was that it's a 4.5 hour movie broken into three chapters, and they're going to come out every 3 months. And so in a year, you would have seen all the movies. And then because of distribution reasons and technical reasons and all the whatever things that normal person can understand and comprehend, including myself, uh, it took a year and a half for the second movie to come out. And for me, it kind of broke the spell, and it was really hard to sort of like claw our way back up. And for me, always the first movie was kind of the frustrating one because ultimately that was kind of a remake of the original, which is a fantastic movie. So doing a remake of anything is a super risky proposition, and I knew that going in. But I always felt like, okay, if I just get people to watch that, and soon enough we have the next movie, then it's going to be okay, and they'll understand what we are doing and why we are doing it. But then it became such a long pause, and then the second movie, and people kind of forgot, why they were there, what's going on. And the second movie kind of felt like, to me, felt a little bit like just kind of like this bridge, uh, waiting for the third movie. And thank God now we were able to come out with the third movie this soon, so that I hope people this time will have been patient and are trusting us enough to come and see. Okay, so what is the payoff? What is the conclusion? And why did they hang around for the whole three movies? But yes, I mean it changed a lot along the way. It changed. We shot the original 3 hour three movies in 53 days on top of each other. Then we put them together. We put the first movie and the second movie together before the first one came out. But then we decided to rework the second movie, and we did some, maybe a couple of weeks of additional shooting, changed some of the plot lines, storylines, and then without, but much before that second movie came out, we just went pretty much right after that. We said, and now let's rework the third movie. The third movie was heavily reworked, and we shot for 3 weeks for the third movie, and it was just the kind of things that we learned. The privilege of doing three movies in one go is that everybody's concentrated, actors are there, everybody's there. Stylistically, you can make it a coherent thing, as opposed to normal sequels that you shoot, 3 years apart. But then the curse is that you're sort of, and you have to sort of try to anticipate like what these three movies would really look like without knowing at all how's the first movie working and what's working, what's not. It's because like normally normal Hollywood way is, yeah, you make a movie, then you do test screenings and see how the test audience reacts to it, and then you tweak it, and then you put it out and see how the audience takes it, and they love it. Then you do a sequel some years later. But now, like, there were no test screenings. We didn't know nothing, and we just had to base it on like what we were seeing when we put the movies together, and then of course with the first movie seeing, how did people take it, and based on all that information and feedback, then we did all this reworking, and one thing that that remained intact was that the and was the number one reason for me for doing this trilogy is that it's Maya's psychological journey. It's a young woman who falls victim to this insane, uh, unexplainable violence, but refuses to be victimized and ultimately, claws her way back. And what she goes through, how she changes, and of course, we don't put a neat bow on it in the end. Everybody can have their own kind of theory of like who she really is in the end of the movie, but there is a resolution. It's not like the third movie is like another sequel, and it's let's see what happens next. It is a completion of this trilogy, and for me, the third movie is closest to what I wanted to do. But one thing that, like I said, one thing that was always there, it's like it's her journey. So we always knew where we wanted her to end up. Of course, there was debate in the last, whatever, 8 months about should it go this way or that way, and should we take this risk and go this far or in the other direction. But what's in the movie now is exactly what we originally planned. How we get there, a lot of things were reworked, and the paths were corrected, and it's of course we thought we are the smartest kid in the room when we were putting together the scripts and planning the movies, but it's so hard to predict how it all plays out when you put it together, and more than anything, how will people react to it. And so you might think that it's like the way to do it is just to keep this as random and dark and nuts, like the original. Every one of the three movies is just the same, but then that doesn't feel right. And then you're like, okay, should it be a little more of a kind of an investigation to like who are these people, and sort of like a procedural thing. And then you realize, like, that's not what it is at all. It's not working. And then you think of like, okay, should we follow these side characters a little more, and that way sort of build a whole mythology and canvas around it. And then you're like, well, that's not it either. We just and the conclusion was that we gotta stick with Maya. We gotta see the journey through her eyes, experience what she experiences, and pretty much try to always stay with it. Of course, there are some scenes that we have to show what other people are doing to move the plot along, and what I know this is the longest answer ever, but I hope that this answers many questions, hopefully. But like, we've done now this cut of putting all three movies together, and it's not like we just splice them together. We recut all the movies, and we threw a lot of stuff out, stuff that I didn't care for, like we lost at least half an hour from the first movie and 20 minutes from the second movie, and sort of kept the scenes that I think are essential and that are important to the character development, and took all the sort of like crap out that was almost felt in retrospect like it was almost like a filler to have proper length movies. But now that it can be one movie, we can just keep the important stuff.
No, thank you. You did touch on a lot of things that I wanted to ask you about. I think I'll leave time for really one more question. So I'm going to ask you the one that I really
Sorry,
want to
my
know.
answer. I
No, no,
apologize.
no, no. It's a great answer. It's a great conversation. Honestly, a pleasure to speak with you. As I said, um, I know I've read some other interviews that you did where you called and you kind of even spoke about it right now. The working on this movie very demanding with like especially the order in which you had to shoot certain sequences, and then as you said, going back to the drawing board. Um, but is there any other franchise, horror or not, that you would consider doing this for all over again? I know word on the street back in the days that you were at one point signed on to like Alien, but is there like any other movie series that you think would work like this, or that you would like to work on something like this for, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Just, to refer to what you said. Yes, I was officially the director of Alien 3. I worked on it for a year at Fox, a million years ago before I did Die Hard 2, and loved those movies. And in that case, it wasn't about doing a remake. It was about doing a sequel to two amazing movies, and I had very definitive ideas of how I wanted to do it, and Fox didn't want to do what I wanted to do, and so I quit, and then they did what they did. Uh, but uh, but I don't know. I mean, is there another franchise like that that you could, you know, like, okay, like, this is crazy, they are doing it, and I hope to God that they are doing it right. But like, if you could do anything in this universe, I would say reinventing the Bond franchise that I would jump into. I was offered, and here's by the way a funny thing. I just had lunch at the downstairs of the hotel, and in the next table was Timothy Dalton. And I remember that I was offered by Barbara Broccoli, I was offered a Bond movie, and now I'm trying to remember, was it Daylights or what was the first one that actually Pierce Brosnan ended up doing? Timothy Dalton had just done one, and then Pierce Brosnan's first Bond movie. I can't remember now what it was, but that was the one I was supposed to do. But then ultimately, I didn't like the script, so I walked away from that too. But anyhow, that's one franchise that to me is like I can't wait to see what they do with it, and I hope it's awesome because it's another one where you can go in so many directions. You can go the Roger Moore way or the more kind of a Pierce Brosnan way, or in the direction what they did with the last few ones. They are all very different kind of movies.
That's awesome. No, Rennie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for this conversation. Cannot wait to see what you do next. Maybe The Strangers Chapter 4. I don't know. I don't know. But no, truly, I really enjoyed the movie. And like I said, it was a pleasure. Have a wonderful
Love it.
day.
Thank you so much, Dempsey. Have a good day.